For over half a century, humans have endeavored to make business a force for good. But is the movement working? Or is it time to explore a new path forward? Welcome to Less Talk, More Action. We are your hosts, Joel Caesar and Owen Barrett, experts in clean energy, net zero real estate, decarbonization, and entrepreneurship. In each episode, we ask provocative questions and share stories from the front lines of sustainability with leaders in science, tech, and business, taking real action to design a cleaner, better future. Thanks for joining the conversation. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to the Less Talk, More Action podcast. My name is Joel Caesar, the world's undisputed voice, building decarbonization. Joining me as always is Owen Barrett, the smartest, most accomplished solar expert in the world. Today's guest, Katie Neck. What a fantastic guest. She's the founder and managing director of Sustained Futures. She's led sustainability at McLaren, which we both love nerding out about. She's been at big consultants, and she brings a great energy. What'd you think?
I loved it. She's, talked about two things that are near and dear to my heart. Optimism within the climate movement, which is just so important, and we do such a bad job at it. And this idea of the green skills gap, I think she calls it. I don't know if you know this, but I started a nonprofit a while ago called Trade Labs. The whole idea was exactly what she's doing, like connecting kids to clean tech jobs. So it's just what she's doing is so important, and she was a great guest.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, but before we get into all that with Katie, let's dive into a segment kind of inspired by the All In podcast, which you and I both love, making predictions for the future of 2026. So here we are, early January, and we're going to make some predictions of what we expect to see in our fields in the year. And then at the end of the year, we'll revisit it and see how we did. So I'll go first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to say, and I've said this before in some ways, but again, I'm just going to really hammer this prediction that in 2026, we're going to see the big tech, hyperscaler, big corporate net zero companies abandon investing in carbon removal crap and carbon offset crap, and instead be investing in trying to reduce energy or trying to make energy more affordable in the communities where they operate, especially the data centers. So it's not an outlandish claim. I'm not the only one making this, but I just think you're going to start seeing it. And no one's going to go out publicly and be like, we're no longer investing in enhanced rock weathering, and instead we're going to invest in making energy affordable for the communities where our data centers are. They're not going to make that distinction. But I promise you, there's going to have to be trade-offs made within these companies. And I think some of it's going to be like the less direct community impacting climate stuff that we've done in the past that you and I have railed against, and more of how do we help utilities, states, cities, communities make energy affordable where our data centers are operating. So that's my prediction.
I hope you're right. Is enhanced rock weathering a real thing?
Yeah. It's one of the dumber carbon removal things. I don't know. Somehow you crush rock and it then is better of absorbing carbon dioxide, and then I guess it finds its way in a mineralized form into rivers, and then it gets buried, and that's how it's sequestered forever. I remember when I was running net zero at the big company I talk about a lot, being like, same question to you. I'm like, is this a real thing? We're actually spending money on this?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I hope your prediction is right, because I think it's so important, and I think we're pouring so much money into such stupid ideas that I hope we just get back to the basics. I think 2026 will be the year of the fastest growing electricity prices we've ever seen, which is good news for me. Bad news for, if you're paying electricity bills. But I've now have two anecdotal pieces of evidence. One, last year, Texas rates went up 80%. That's insane. In 1 year, 80%. And two now is in New York. Somebody that we both know is working on a project where since they broke ground, electricity prices went up 50%. I mean, these are astonishing numbers. And if that holds true for the rest of the country, so many of these clean tech projects are going to pencil better that, ironically, we'll be in a better place despite pain, pocketbook pain.
Yeah, and we'll have the midterm elections this year, 2026, later this year, and I imagine a lot of those races are going to be highly focused on each candidate trying to talk about how they're going to help alleviate these electricity prices, for sure.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting year.
That's our predictions. If you're out there and you got your own, feel free to ping us. And with that, let's jump into our conversation with Katie Neck. Today, we are joined by Katie Neck, Managing Director and founder of Sustained Futures. Katie leads an organization dedicated to closing the global green skills gap and helping companies turn climate risk into resilience and opportunity. Her journey began in elite sport. While working in Formula One, she witnessed a typhoon at the Japanese Grand Prix that shut down operations and exposed how vulnerable even the most advanced industries are to extreme weather. That moment set her on a new path. She went on to build McLaren's first sustainability function. She later joined Capgemini Invent to consult across sectors. But in every industry, she noticed the same problem. Organizations lacked the green skills they needed to respond to climate change. In 2023, she launched Sustained Futures to close that gap. Since then, the team has upskilled more than 5,000 people around the world in partnership with the United Nations, Adobe, Arsenal FC, Dyson, and Sail GP. Her leadership has earned her recognition as the 2024 Barclays Outstanding Entrepreneur. So, Katie, welcome to Let's Talk More Action.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a fan of the show, so excited to be here.
Well, very cool. We were joking a little bit before you jumped on. We met each other after I took a shot at one of your posts, I think, on LinkedIn. So we're always happy to, bring the real talk to the Let's Talk More Action. And after you pushed back, I was like, you know what? Come on the show and let's have it out there together. So neither you and I can remember what exactly that was about, but I think we are more aligned than maybe that posting controversy would indicate. But that to be said, let's jump right in. We start our guests with the first question. Katie, how are you taking action to make the world a better place?
Well, thanks, Joel. So right now, 72% of sustainability goals are off track. And that's not because of lack of technology and ambition. It's really because only 14% of the workforce have the right skills to deliver them. So essentially, we're asking a really small sustainability team or small sustainability teams to transform an entire organization, value chain, supply chain, without really giving the wider workforce the right capabilities to take action. So that is the green skills gap, and Sustained Futures are closing that really by delivering climate fluency labs, green skills masterclasses, and impact academies for young people. So for every employee that we upskill a young person completely for free. Because we know the green skills gap is not only in the corporates, but it's also the pipeline coming through to the workforce as well.
Amazing.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. I do want to get to the green skills gap because I have a lot of interest there, but I also just watched that Netflix documentary about F1, so I want to get the insider's perspective. Okay. What was it like working for F1, and what were you doing? How'd you like it?
It was an amazing chapter of my life. I was in McLaren for 6 years, and I joined just at the time that Zach Brown joined as well. So I joined quite a grey British engineering company, and I left a papaya sports brand. And to be part of the journey with the team and learning the commercial acumen from the team. I think they've got the most sponsors on the grid now. So I was part of the corporate partnerships team there, leading on technical partnerships, and just the innovation and excitement around the possibilities of what can be done. I moved into a sustainability role, so I started the sustainability team there, and actually there was not many closed doors to what we could achieve, because everyone wants to be the best at whatever it is that we were doing. So we were kind of racing off track to be one of the best sustainability teams as well.
Man, I love that. Are there goals for F1 to go all electric?
It's not for F1 to go all electric. There's already a racing series, Formula E, which is a battery series. So Formula One already have hybrid engines. So they have very efficient engines already. It's actually, I think if I remember rightly, 0.7% of the emissions from each team is actually from the car. And this year, 2026 season, they are launching sustainable fuels in Formula One. So as opposed to taking the carbon from the ground, they're capturing the carbon and then using that for the fuel source.
Well, Owen, I don't know if you remember, we did a bit. Remember this a couple episodes ago about F1 made an announcement. They had a net zero commitment. And then there was another, Katie, I know you're not in the UK anymore, but I think you have the heritage there. There was a British guy named Ali who posted kind of taking a shot at F1, being like, what is F1 with a net zero commitment? It doesn't make any sense. It's a fossil fuel-based business. And then I looked into it a little bit, read their environmental report, and then Owen and I did a bit where I came away just really impressed by the work F1 was doing across the board with stuff like the coordination of travel to make sure it was efficient as you moved around the various cities and all the things they're doing at their individual locations, which are, as I'm sure you could tell us, incredibly elaborate and complex. So decarbonizing those facilities is probably not easy. And then, of course, yeah, you're running on a fossil fuel to kind of operate this amazing global business. So that's going to be hard to offset or whatever. So yeah, we did a whole thing on that. And I would just say, like, it's really impressive what F1's doing in sustainability, because it's not a business that probably has to. And I liked also how they took this. It's something Owen and I talk a lot about when you think about companies and sustainability objectives, which sounds like you're an expert on. Too often they go to, where's my offsets, where's my carbon removals, and like decarbonizing my operations, that's going to be too hard. So let's just go to the easy stuff. And it's like F1 kind of took the opposite approach, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the sport has grown so much, and especially in the US as well, there's now 3 races here. So the fan base has grown so much, and obviously the Netflix Drive to Survive impact has grown the global fan base. So there's more fans traveling to races, which is inevitable. But they are doing what they can. I think for me, my moral compass changed a little bit after kind of experiencing extreme weather and seeing the impact that really had on the operations and how we got to the next race, like sea freight, air freight, fans displaced, how were we responsible for that? And I think flying around the world to burn fossil fuels just didn't sit quite right with me anymore. I left when the sport was growing so much. So it's amazing to see, the legacy and especially the team McLaren doing what they're doing, knowing that I, played a very small part in getting that off the ground.
That's a cool segue. So you're working for F1, you experience a typhoon firsthand, which just screws up everything. And then that led to what you're doing now?
Yeah, pretty much, Owen. Essentially, I left to go into consulting. So I was working across different industries from, elite sport or manufacturing, I guess, and working across FMCG brands, like the biggest beverage company in the world, and looking at the SKUs, 40,000 SKUs, and how to decarbonize that from packaging to logistics to ingredients. And then like looking at nuclear submarines and how to decarbonize the manufacturing there. And essentially across every industry, every business that we worked with had the same problem. This was really tired, overwhelmed sustainability teams that were trying to gather all these data requests for reporting and trying to convince their leadership this is the right thing to do, and trying to build all these business cases to say renewable energy is, long term the right thing to do. It's resilient, it's cheaper. I mean, you guys know this from the work that you're doing. And Joe, I see you smiling. This is part of your role, right? At Google. And Owen, your work in the built environment, like this all too well. But we're in an echo chamber, and we sit in an echo chamber, especially in the corporate world. So these small sustainability teams are being asked to do a lot, and there's a untapped human resource, right? Salaries and human resources is the highest cost on any company's P&L, but it's the most underutilized in terms of corporate sustainability action. And honestly, to really help my climate anxiety of sitting in these boardrooms and really being quite worried about the lack of action that's being taken, and how perhaps we think businesses are doing their best and they're doing all this amazing stuff that we see in reports, but actually, are they doing enough? And I think that was quite overwhelming to me, especially some of the brands that I looked up to. And it really is the green skills gap. People personally know what to do, perhaps in their personal lives, and people are taking action in their personal lives. But we spend most of our time at work, and people aren't really sure what they can do more in their roles. I think not printing and turning off the lights at the end of the day is so old school and not the right way to approach corporate sustainability. But a lot of businesses that we speak to are still kind of there.
Oh man, that's so frustrating. That's like what drove me the most crazy in the corporate world. Like, let's get rid of straws. I'm like, come on.
You always bring up straws. You got to come up with a new
because
attack line here.
I'll come up with something.
Katie, I'll just say, as a fan of the show, you might know this, but we just love your origin story of this business. Like, it's every time we hear someone with the origin of I was noticing this thing and nobody was doing it, and I just decided, screw it, I'm going to start it. It's like the best kind of story and the best entrepreneurs we want to celebrate here. It's really the ethos of the title of this show. Like, stop complaining, stop expecting someone else to do it, get off your ass, start a business, solve the problem. So it sounds like that's what you decided to do. So maybe on that point, the next question can be, we want to, same as Owen, I want to learn more about actually how sustained futures work and how it's going. But like, we love the entrepreneurial journey discussion as much as anything. So you're at Capgemini, right? Big consultant, probably nice salary, lots of cool jobs and clients. And then you said, so I'm going to start my own thing. So how is that? How has it been to start your own company, and how is it going? And just kind of tell us a little bit about taking that leap.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, right? And it's exciting. And, like I said, I had quite a lot of climate anxiety because I was experiencing the lack of action, and I had to figure out like how the only way to overcome that is by taking action yourself. So it was totally accidental, I have to be honest. It was out of a pure drive to make sure that, I guess, the root cause of the problem was being solved, and less acronyms are being used, and we're being quite practical about this conversation because it's quite obvious once you've been, well, I don't know, once these green lights have turned on, like you just can't see anything else, and you can't really live your life a different way. So moving from a big consulting firm and starting your own business is not for the faint-hearted, and I saved a lot of money from that salary to give me this runway, and it's been nothing but rewarding. I think I've learned way more. I have a business degree, and I've always been a little bit entrepreneurial, but nothing quite prepares you for wearing every single hat and all the stresses that come with it. But actually, I think what we're doing is so incredibly rewarding, especially when we see and work with young people that are seeing these green lights, and they're just super enthused about the careers that are available for them, and we don't even know what exists right yet. The opportunities are wild. Like the careers that we have, the career that you had, Joel, at Google, and Owen, what you're doing now, what I'm doing, they didn't exist 10 years ago or 12 years ago, so there's so much opportunity, and using negative language like crisis and I think you spoke about it in a previous podcast, but we're really positioning it in the wrong way. There is so much opportunity, and there should be more optimism about the conversation. And being an entrepreneur, which is still a bit weird to call myself that, if I'm honest, there's a big change between being an employee of a business to being a founder of the business, and your energy levels have to be sky high at all times. But going back to my 6 years in Formula One, and that was the way I lived my life. Like it was weekends, it was evenings, it was time zones, like it was just always on. So fortunately, I can take a lot of lessons from that incredible chapter of my life, and definitely resilience is one of them, and hard work is one of them. And you definitely need that to transition out of a 9 to 5 corporate career into a startup environment.
What was your 0 to 1 journey like? So you were working at a big consultancy, then you want to start your own. What was it like getting your first client? How'd you do it?
So I was working my 9 to 5, and every other minute of the day I was building this business. And honestly, Owen, the whole idea was to bring professionals to young people to show the careers that were available. That was really one of the main drivers. So Arsenal Football Club were very supportive, and that they're our first paying client. I did a lot of proof of concept work. I did a lot of freebies because I didn't need the cash essentially personally, as I had my salary. So I was doing a lot on the side. And then Arsenal Football Club, were our first paying client. And that was an amazing experience. We're still working with them now. The team have been super supportive. And that coincided with them being the first professional football club to be certified by the Science Based Targets Initiative. So they had a big challenge of upskilling their employees, essentially on what does SBTI stand for and what is GHG and all of this jargon that we've come up with. But we really wanted to make sure that employees were getting practical steps to take action in their own roles. So it could be the IT team or the facilities team, and actually building that with them. A lot of the work that we've been doing, Owen, is being built with the client because we're small, we're a startup, we're nimble. So a lot of the products that we have available today have been co-built with our clients. We're always listening to the customers and always listening to these sustainability teams that are overwhelmed, tired, but they're really supportive. And the sustainability world and profession, everyone is super supportive of each other. I genuinely can't explain how much support I've had, and that was probably one of the challenges early on, to be honest, Owen, is everyone wanted to help, everyone wanted to give advice, everyone wanted to support. How can I help? And actually, as a if there's anyone listening that is a new entrepreneur or wanting to start their own business, you need to be able to answer how can people help you, because people are really willing to help you. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, to be honest, Owen. I welcome
That's
your
good
thoughts
advice.
and how
Yeah.
you found that, but how can I help is the one question I'm asked all the time, and it's obviously different answers for different people, but I know going into any meeting I need to have an answer to that question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, is most of your work outside of the US?
At the moment, yeah, most of our work is outside the US. We're working primarily in the Middle East and the UK. And then I moved to the US late last year, and we're starting to build a team here. So we've worked with the US Sale GP team. They were our first US client. So we're starting our journey over here. And that came with a lot of apprehension and a lot of language change, to be honest, based on our experiences in Europe and the Middle East. So we're finding our feet, and this year we're kind of full pelt growing our business in the US.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
it's
on
interesting.
you're on you're on America's fastest growing sustainability podcast, so you're gonna experience the bump. So I expect your American business to just explode once
It's gonna
this
take
goes live.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you have the same experience here in the U.S. as you have, in Europe and the Middle East, where people are asking, "How can I help?" I have not had that experience. I have actually the opposite experience, where it's kind of astounding how greedy the companies are that we work for. They're like, "What else can you do for me for no other fee?" Like, we were just talking to a multifamily group today. We're gonna get them solar paid for 100% by a grant. We're talking millions of dollars. We're going to get them a tax credit in the magnitude of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they said, "Is there also some kind of development fee that we get?" I'm like, what's going on here?
But she's probably referring more to like individuals and partners and like advisors.
But it
right?
just,
Like,
it seems like it's more collaborative overseas. Here, it's like you run into this fatigue
I don't know,
issue.
Katie. I think he's not listening. I'm an advisor to his company. I offer to help him all the time. Maybe he just doesn't accept help like you're giving a recommendation that he should.
No, I think I have had this theory for a while that there's a difference of ESG in America versus ESG elsewhere.
I see, Katie.
think-
Let's let Katie respond.
Yeah,
She knows better
Katie,
than
yeah,
we
what do you think
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Well, without talking about the macro environment on this topic, ESG is a complicated term, right? And kind of going back to what is it that we're doing? You're trying to do less harm. That's it, right? You're trying to do less harm to the environment, to people, and ESG has been a way and an acronym and a corporate jargon to kind of get the business moving in the right direction. So there's definitely been a place for it in the past, but that's exactly kind of where it is, in my opinion, and that is primarily in the US, but also in other parts of the world as well. Like in the Middle East, we're doing a lot of work in Saudi Arabia, and they're very much focused on the UN SDGs, which is not something that we particularly use anymore. So everyone is on their different journeys. And
It's basically a bad word here in the States anymore. UN SDGs. Yeah.
yeah, everything has been politicized here. And I did an amazing project with Brown University and the team there at 180 Consulting, and they did a review for me and a go-to-market strategy for the US. And what we noticed is on corporate reporting, the term ESG obviously had declined so much, but actually in its place was renewable energy and resource management and water scarcity. So even though the terminology is changing, I think that's really, really good, because it can be more focused on actually what it is that your business needs to do less harm.
Less acronyms, less jargon, more actual work, which is maybe
more
for the best.
optimism too. Yeah.
Yeah, more optimism and more skills. So all of that, you need the certain skills for those different terms. Whereas ESG as a band is, it has had its place, but I think we're moving in a really different direction now.
Oh, thank
Well,
God.
uh,
I'm
we're-
sick of ESG.
I'm a big sports fan, but admittedly, like a lot of Americans, I don't watch much soccer or football, as I know you guys
football,
call
Joel.
it. Yeah, I know. So, but I'm like, I don't have. I was
That's a
in.
whole other podcast. We can talk about that for a long time.
I used to go to London a lot when I was
Right
in.
and wrong is the fundamental of it.
I was in London a lot in my Google days, and I've always wanted to go to a Premier League game, and I don't have a team. So maybe Arsenal needs to be my team. I was actually just looking; they're playing right now against Liverpool. So
They're going to win the league probably this time as well. So
we're
you
rooting
should
for
definitely
we're rooting
support
for
them.
Arsenal because there's sustainability. Look at this. This is how it works. This is how you do things in business. You just attracted a new customer because
There we go.
you're doing the right
This is
thing
the
with
value,
Katie.
right? Of taking sustainability seriously, you win more fans.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so let's get in more to sustained futures, and I'll say like I have a couple very tangible like relationship to this world too. I last year I was at a company called Block Power, and Block Power was a U.S. New York based building decarbonization company. There was a few things we did, but one of them was providing or trying to train ex-incarcerated people to install heat pumps. That was like part of what the business was founded to do. And I'm sure like you're saying, like the fulfillment of like there was a lot of things I was doing at Block Power, and trying to decarbonize buildings is great, but helping people find jobs and career paths, and especially people from disadvantaged communities, is just so incredible. And even though that company struggled at times, the one thing there was always demand for was exactly this: the workforce training, especially for underprivileged, disadvantaged communities like ex-incarcerated. So my point is to this long story of asking you a question, like, man, there must be a huge opportunity here for you. I like this is in demand. I've seen it myself, and so I would imagine like this go-to-market strategy that you've provided. I mean, like, what kind of growth are you expecting here?
Well, we're definitely being targeted and intentional on the corporates that we're working with. So we're looking at different industries. I don't have a particular dollars number associated to that at the moment. That's kind of what we're working out on the ground. But I'm based in Miami now, so I'm here, and it is ultimately the place where it's exposed the most to climate change. I'm listening to so many people here. There's such amazing work going on here, but actually there's not a corporate environment here. So then, we look at New York and California and Atlanta and seeing where these big corporations are to really upskill their employees. I think the most of the growth, to be honest, Joe, will come from procurement teams and upskilling procurement teams. And SAP are doing amazing work in this space and looking at your strategy to spend. So if are you investing in these social value projects like you've just mentioned? Are you fundraising? Are you looking at philanthropic ventures? But actually, where are you spending your most money? It's on procurement. It's what you're purchasing, your purchase goods and services. So if you can change the way that you're spending and purchasing, then ultimately that has an amazing impact on communities and doing less harm and finding alternative suppliers. So a lot of our growth will come from working with procurement teams within big corporations. Over in Europe, that's already kind of happening a lot, and we're seeing climate clauses being put into contracts. And I think if we're thinking about an America first approach to business as well, then that also has a real impact, because if we're looking at American suppliers only, well, America, all across America, there's different risks of climate change, right? You've got wildfires, you've got hurricanes, you've got droughts, you've got heat stress. So if you are looking at a America first supplier base, then people need to understand this as well, right? And I think there's just been a lot of talk around regenerative agriculture in the US, which is fantastic. So there's so much opportunity, like you said, to go after. It's quite overwhelming to me. I didn't quite realize how big America was. So
well, Owen, I mean, talk about your business. There's a business out there that does solar. Like you can sign up to train people to install panels, right? Have you ever looked
Grid
into this?
alternatives.
Yeah,
Grid
yeah.
alternatives. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, the reason, Katie, that I said at the beginning I was so interested in the green skills gap is in a previous life, I was doing a lot of work with schools, public school districts. And I tried to get this program off the ground. This is in 2015, I think, 2014, before really the AI boom. So before it was obvious that there was going to be this massive opportunity for like electricians and other skilled trades. I tried to connect the dot between the projects, generally the solar projects we were doing on site at schools, and career pathways. So I tried to get the schools to get the non-college bound kids to bring them on site to have our electricians talking to the kids about what we're doing and what the career pathways are. And it was fucking impossible to do. It was like I was moving mountains to get schools to
California
think
public
differently.
schools. That's
Yeah,
a bureaucracy mess.
But the whole time we're like, these projects are happening at the high school. All we got to do is get the kids outside. And it was like, well, what about liability? And what about this? And what about that? And so
now they can hire Sustained Futures, who has all that stuff figured out, right? Can make turnkey.
I mean, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's so necessary to get these kids exposed in a way that like engages them, right? You can't like learn about being an electrician with a textbook. You got to go out in the field and see what it means to do it. So I mean, kudos to you. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. And, we're really keen and always have been that any education for young people will be for free. That's just the way that our business is going to run. But I had the same challenges, Owen, and not only is it like lack of funding, but it's also the teachers' time, and they don't have the time and the headspace to add something else onto the agenda. So that's why we've designed the business the way that it is, that corporates are paying for their employees to be upskilled, and then they get included in that the social value of us matching that upskilling to young people. And we're trying to make it as practical as possible for them. So instead of talking about an LCA and supply chain transparency, which mean absolutely nothing to them, we kind of open up a workshop and we get them to take off their shoe. And everyone is some are nervous, some are like laughing out about how smelly their feet are, and some of them are really up for it. So they all take off their shoe, and then we kind of take them through the supply chain and the logistics of getting that shoe to you. So what's your shoe made from? It's mainly leather, rubber, plastics. Okay, what is plastic? And actually seeing their minds work through how that shoe got to you. So you've got your plastic, what's plastic from? Oil. Okay, and then it's refined, then it's turned into a shoe. Where's that manufactured? How does it get from Asia primarily to you on a plane, on a ship? Okay, what's the emissions associated to that? Where is it? Where do you find it? Is it online? Is it in a store? How does it get to you? And then how many times do you wear it? And this is quite a low number most of the time. And then what do you do with it after then? Do you donate it to charity? Probably not, because it's a really old, smelly shoe. So where do you put it? In the trash or to landfill?
Yeah.
And just taking them on that journey is quite eye-opening. And we just kind of pause at the end of that. We get them to really like reflect and think about what they can do differently, which is a huge thing, right? And we see half of young people really suffering from climate anxiety. We're told that a lot, but actually from what we're seeing, there's a lot that are blissfully unaware and caught up in a big consumerism machine. So, it's quite eye-opening for us as well to realize, to meet people where they are at.
Katie, we can talk about, just real quick, Joel, we can talk about this more offline if there's interest, but we're doing a ton of installations on affordable housing properties where if there's any way to connect what you're doing with our installations and taking kids from the communities to learn, I'm all for it. So maybe just noodle on that. Let me know.
I have a Cambio idea too here, which...
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, Katie, I don't know.
Get the sales hat on.
The company I work for now. No, this is about supporting Katie, and I think hopefully Cambio wanting to do the right thing, which I know we are. So we're an AI-based technology company that helps buildings identify decarbonization opportunities, and like Owen's point, that story about his work in the schools, and then the mentioning of liability and logistics, and some of the challenges that make it easy to say no for these schools. I just encountered because Greenbuild, which is a big green building conference, moves around different cities every year, was in LA most recently. And USGBC used to do this thing called Green Apple Day of Service, where it was a call to action to anyone working in the field to promote the industry to young people during the fall as they go back to school. And it's when I was at the city of Santa Monica, we used to do it every year. And back then I was at the city, so it was like, this logistics part was easy. But it was like some of the best work I ever got was a part of, like teaching young kids that let's look into this career path: engineering, technology, sustainability. So this past fall, I was said to a few people in LA, like, hey, Cambio wants to go into some school. Greenbuild's going to be there. Let's go to a disadvantaged school and teach them how they can learn to use AI to upskill themselves and maybe decarbonize their own building. Sounded cool, but we ran into the same thing Owen did. Like, that sounds too hard, or you're gonna have to go through this year-long vetting process to get into my school, and there's security risks, and I get all that. You can do background checks, but I remember thinking afterwards, like, okay, next time we do this, we probably should just partner with someone who already has this stuff figured out. So I guess that's a long way of asking you the question of, like, is this part of the value proposition of you guys? Whereas there's corporates that want to do the right thing. There's young people that want to get trained. There's people that are working in an industry that know there's an angle to be upskilled, but they need an entity out there that's figured out the hard part of why this doesn't happen.
Yeah, right, exactly. And this year we'll be launching a virtual impact academy as well. So this will be an opportunity for corporates to sponsor live cohorts, all facilitated online. And this will be, given to students for free, access for free. And we're trying to get them offline, obviously, and out in nature, but actually to build a small community to upskill them, you do need this this face time. So it is a hurdle. I think in the UK, what is incredible about the UK government is for any public procurement, you need a specific element. I think it's a minimum of 15% of an RFP to be focused on social value. So actually there's a big movement in the UK for any big procurement contracts, any technology contracts, like for the NHS, you need to have and you need to invest in social value. So hopefully, we'll see more of that and more investment coming in. But, Joel, like AI, schools aren't equipped to, as teachers aren't upskilled enough to teach young people about this stuff. So I think there's definitely going to be an amazing economy around alternative learning. And kids can go on YouTube. That we didn't have any of that, right? We had books, so they can learn anything they want for free at any one time, but it's quite overwhelming about how much information they have. So part of our goal is to give them what they need to know, be really intentional with the skills and the information that they need, and give them the resources to go, and form their own path. But we really want to signpost the touch point back. So it could be mentoring, it could be CV building, it can be, but it will be in this Impact Academy community completely for free and online for young people around the world.
I know, Katie, it's probably easier to build your own like online independent learning hub, I'll call it. But isn't it kind of pathetic that we just say schools aren't like, they
capable?
Can't do this. Teachers can't learn AI. So we're like, rather than try and get schools to learn it, people like you have to say, well, we'll just do this thing outside of schools. Like, does any part of you want to try to do the harder thing and change schools?
It's actually an interesting question. That's like, are you upskilling teachers too?
That is a great question. And I want to take any heat off teachers. They're already very overwhelmed, right? They already have so much on their plate. It's systemic. It's a Victorian establishment. It's school. You sit down, you're told to be quiet. Like, that is not, fit
It's not
for
how you learn.
purpose.
It's not 2026. Yeah, it's not that way you should do it anymore. Yeah.
But I guess my point is, somebody needs to be the impetus for public school to change. And I'm not putting this on you necessarily, but it's like, I hear this a lot where it's, Joel, whether it's you trying to work with schools, it's me trying to work with schools, Katie, it's you trying to work with schools. We all get to the same conclusion, which is it's impossible to work with these school districts because.
Katie, we know President Trump is a frequent listener of the show, so maybe he'll be reaching out to you to be the czar of public school advancement here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a sad state of affairs when you meet so many people that have the same conclusion, try to work with public school districts.
Yeah, and you know what? It is like a institution, right? It is a really old school institution, and when we're working in the Middle East, that is a developing country with lots and lots of cash. They don't have the same problem because they haven't got the traditional infrastructure. They're starting it from now. So it's
Yeah.
designed in a way that's fit for purpose. And it's super impressive. Like every time we're out in the Middle East, we do a lot of work in Saudi Arabia. They've got an ambition of Vision 2030, which is to plant 2 trillion trees. And they don't have the green skills to do that. Everyone there has grown up in a desert. So talking about ecology and biodiversity is not native to them. So in order to have those kind of new environments and greening the country, which they need to do, not from a carbon capture point of view, but actually from a
Resilience.
surface temperature cooling,
Yeah.
to keep everyone cool as the temperature increases. So the infrastructure that we work with is really different in different parts of the world. What you're experiencing is totally the same across Europe as well. But I don't see why universities shouldn't be corporately sponsored. Corporates are the people, and startups are the people that need these skills, and they have a responsibility to invest in the future workforce, because there's going to be bigger gaps, right, with AI, and who knows what's next.
I've had that same idea actually, because there's like mounting pressure in the US that college is becoming like more and more obsolete. So I've wondered if tech companies are going to launch their own universities for exactly the demand that they have.
They already are.
I mean,
yeah, it's
they
already
are?
happening. Yeah, totally. Google's
It
got
seems
a
like
version
a
of
no-brainer.
this. I know Peter Thiel's talked a lot about this, and
Yeah.
well, Katie, let's have you back. It's something we're going to be doing more on the show, is like bringing back, especially entrepreneurs, like come in this time and we'll revisit 6 months, because there's more we want to ask you, but we're kind of at time. So I'm going to ask you to wrap up here on our last question, which sounds like is going to be right in your wheelhouse around optimism. But I was trying to look for the LinkedIn post where you and I were maybe attacking each other, and I couldn't find it. But I found this other post of yours I love, which I'll use to tee up the last question. And for our audience, follow Katie on LinkedIn. She's a great follow. But I love this post. You got Edward Norton in the picture, which I don't think you're meaning to take a shot at him, but you say, "We don't need more tech bros building more scalable solutions," with quotations. We couldn't agree more. We love that on this show. We need climate confident employees to understand what to do with the ones we already have. So I'll leave that there for the audience. Follow Katie. She's got cool, spicy takes on LinkedIn, and she pushes back on my BS. But Katie, as we mentioned, there's too much negativity. You don't like the messaging of the sustainability community, as neither do we. So we'd like to end the show on optimism. So Katie, what gives you hope for the future?
Hope for the future is just how much opportunity there is if you stop consuming and start creating. If we consume bad news cycles, if we consume energy from other people, then it can send us in the wrong direction. But if we can be creating our own paths and creating our own futures, then most of the time that turns into a positive, optimistic one, I'd say.
It's well said. Let's wrap it up on that. And just in case you're wondering, Arsenal and Liverpool are tied 0-0 at the half.
Look at you with your nil-nil lingo.
Yeah, Arsenal, my new team.
Great.
All
Well,
right.
thank you guys for having me. It's been wonderful to chat to you.
Yeah, Katie,
Yeah, thanks for coming
on. Anything to plug? So how do we follow you on LinkedIn? I've been plugging that. Anything else? You on other social media? Sustained Futures have a website. Where can we point people?
We have a website, www.sustainedfutures.com. We're active on LinkedIn, and look out for some really big launches this year.
Oh, I love it. Teaser.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you, Owen. And thank you to the audience for joining. You can find Owen and I also on LinkedIn, usually actively antagonizing the more talk, more complaining sustainability nerds. You can find this podcast and more great content at lesstalkmoreaction.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And until next time, we encourage you to ask yourself, what are you doing to take action to make the world a better place?